What's happening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with Jones Kwame Fisher Jones. As always, I am him. And when I'm talking NFL, I'm joined by my man Chris Franklin of NJ.com. Chris, we were discussing before we went on air how slow the dead season is. And what I forgot to say was it is one of my favorite times of year just because I get an opportunity to show how creative I am. I mean, it sounds arrogant, but it's the honest to God truth. And putting
Hey,
together a good show. Uh, I'm excited about the topic that we got with the Cowboys versus the Dolphins, but we're gonna do a little house cleaning first. Todd Bowles, head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, went to the playoffs for 2 years in a row. And since the bar was so low in Tampa, they managed to do that. They rewarded him with a new contract. He and GM Todd Light. The trickle down effect, I don't think we really need to get into the contract. I don't think it's much. I mean, no one's expecting the Bucks to do anything this year. Probably playoffs. They're lucky win another playoff game. And that's all the owners want. But the trickle down effect was the rumor was it removed an opportunity or a place that Bill Belichick, head coach of the University of North Carolina Tar Heels football team, it removed an opportunity or a place where he was going to land. I never really bought into that, but what say you?
yeah, first off, I thought basically if you're in NFC South and you're somewhat competent, you have a job for life because that division is just it just churns so many coaches and executives what
Yeah.
have you. So, given that their past experience, given that you look at Bowles and how long he's been there, it was expected. But the fact that Belichick and Mike Florio had this, and it was interesting. Belichick, we all know, likes to do things his way, and he likes to do it sneaky. And to have other people talk for him going, wow, I bet Bill would like this. I came from there once. Like it's all like a puppet mouth going, hey, I would like this. And now that that's gone, you look around the league at potential spots, and we may get into this later on. I don't want to step one out, but I'm looking at the potential spots. There's not many at all that could lure him to go back. So
Well, here's the issue I have with that, and here's the thing that or I consider: we don't know until we know. Like right now, Tampa Bay may have been the spot, but let's say we're going to talk about the Dolphins. Let's say the Dolphins fall off and fire Mike McDaniel's, right?
mhm.
Because Mike McDaniel's is the coach there, right?
Yeah,
And you're telling me Bill Belichick wouldn't be interested in that job?
that was the place I was looking at because it's close to his. Because remember, Jacksonville was on his list, and
Yeah.
it's that one too. And he gets to go on his boat, bring Jordan
Mm-hmm.
Hudson down with him. He back in the NFL. He's cool. So that would be the only spot I can see him doing. But then, is he going to want to deal with the headaches of like say Tyreek Hill? Is he going to want to deal with all that and trying to
He
force a
dealt with
Patriot
Randy
way with him?
Moss, and Randy Moss was deemed a headache beforehand, and Tyreek Hill, he's busy, he's active. I'll put it that way, but I don't consider him. I consider Aaron Rodgers a headache. You know what I mean? I don't consider Tyreek Hill a headache, if that makes any sense. I consider like a guy, I don't know if I want hummus or football. Like when I consider that guy a headache. Outside of that, I don't really see football players who do foolish football things or 20-year-old, let's put it in perspective. 20-year-olds that do foolish things really is guys that are headaches. It's like, oh geez, what did he do now? But you just keep it moving. And then he walks in the door, it becomes about football. So you keep that in mind too. What was won't be what is, if that makes any sense at all to people. So I don't think, but I don't think with Bill Belichick. I think we all, for me, it was the Cowgirls. I thought he would land with Dallas. He didn't. Since he didn't land with them, I kind of felt like I would sit back and see what happens, see what the tea leaves say. I get the final words on the segment to you.
The Cowboys with him is probably like, I can see it in Belichick. So I'm like, nah, I just don't see that. I would love to see it for the drama aspect to
Mm.
see him just going stuff like that. That'd be great. So personally, I don't think he's coming back to the NFL. I think it's a good
I don't
chance
think
for
so
him.
either.
Yeah,
Well,
it's good. You think he would?
I don't know. I don't know because, and I'm going to say why I don't know. Pete Carroll's in the NFL. Shoot some sunflower seeds on that. Pete Carroll's back in the NFL. So anything could happen. Transitioning to Dallas Goedert, Philadelphia Eagles tight end. At one point was one of the better tight ends in the league. I'd say at this point he's probably middle of the pack tight end league. I don't know if you would still put him as an elite tight end, He reworked his deal for the opportunity to win one more ring, or at least one more shot to be closer to one more ring. You and I both already going on record that we would be shocked if the Eagles don't repeat this year. If as long as Jalen Hurts is healthy, we both agree that the opportunity will be there. I think the loss to C.J. Gardner Johnson is going to be felt, but I'm hoping that in a his loss not being combined with the rookie defensive coordinator will be able to allow them to progress and do some different things. But as far as Goddard reworking the deal, I don't know if it's interesting on the deal perspective, but I think it is interesting that you don't hear anything coming out of Philly. There's no complaining. There's no, oh, I want my money. There's no holdouts. It's like, it's just, shh, So that's what I take away from this. What do you take away from it?
There's two things. I still think he's a top 10 guy, but the problem is
Really,
not so much like it's not so much for me when it comes to his ability, it comes to his availability because you don't know when he's
the
going to be
number one
available.
ability, though. That's the number one ability.
That is true. That is true. And I think you'll start to see a shift in the offense a little bit more anyway, because you got another guy who's going to be who's a free agent. First, I'll stay with Goddard here. I'm shocked that he took that much of a pay cut. I know he was going 14. In fact, he went down to 10. I was like, this is basically Josh Sweat all over again. So you got that. And then the fact that you have Jahan Dotson, who they're going to try to want to feature a little bit more in this offense as opposed to last year. Those touches, they come to this is like AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, those are offense. But we got Jahan Dotson, who operates in the same area in the field. So maybe you'll see a little bit thrown that way. I'm shocked they didn't take a tight end this year in the draft higher up. I thought they would have done that to keep some consistency going. But for Goddard, this is his year to try. He's not going to get the big deal that he's looking for. Obviously, everybody said basically the league told him without saying you're not worth that much. So he's going to try to get as much, but he's going to. I can see him a little bit more motivated than usual to try
Yeah.
to get that one last deal.
Well, it makes sense for Philly to try to feature Dotson a little bit because in professional sports, you can't do the same move again. Like the teams, players, teams, coaches, they'll catch up to you. So you have to add something new and you have to do something different. So, and the adding something new is not the same as doing something different. Adding I'm gonna go to an NBA analogy. Adding a baseline fadeaway jump shot, right, would be something new. Doing something different would be instead of going when you always go left pulling up, you implement a couple different always driving to the basket when you go left or passing out. So that's something different than what you normally did. So the reason why I bring that up is I feel like it makes sense that they would add feature dots and more and Goddard's touches would go down. Also, you mentioned it, I'll say it too, there's an elephant in the room. He hasn't really been healthy. So you want to have another offense or another playbook or something else you can check to if he's not available. So we'll see what happens. Look, man, we're gonna be talking Eagles a lot when the season starts. I just love the fact we're not talking them in the offseason. I love the fact that I'm being real with you. I love the fact that we're not talking about them in the offseason. Yeah, I'd love to see them go after the Cincinnati Bengals defensive end, but if they don't, I'm not going to boo-hoo about it. You know what I mean? I love the fact that you just don't hear anything about it. Now, speaking of offseason, the offseason has historically been won by the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are the reigning. Well, no, sometimes Washington had it. But I would say right now, the Cowboys are usually the reigning offseason Super Bowl champions. Like they win the offseason more than anyone else. This year, they came out the gate, no Mike McCarthy, no Bill Belichick. They go with Schottenheimer's offspring. I look at the Cowboys and I wonder what they're going to be. Then we'll bring their schedule up. But the question I have for you is Dallas Cowboys versus the Miami Dolphins. Who has the better record and who goes further in the playoffs?
I think for both of them, I think they're talking to Cowboys. I really think this is a way because even with Brian Schottenheimer being a rookie head coach, Mike McDaniels is just done. I'm sorry. He's a quirky enough character. He's a good enough guy. But when you look at that team as a whole, the defense has so many issues. They're getting older. There's some people. I mean, we look at Vic Fangio. What he did with the Eagles. He get a year removed from the Miami, and Miami's like, well, he wasn't mean to us. He was mean to us. Now it's gone. There's no excuse. They
Yeah.
weren't as good as they could have been. That offense, and you look at all the Shanahan based offenses that are out there, they're starting to get figured out, and you need to continue to get wrinkles. You look at the 49ers, you look at the Rams. The only person I think that could actually come up with a new variation, I have more faith in doing that, would be Sean McVay. That's it.
Mm.
And I look at and ever since you look at Robert Saleh, when he left from Shanahan, he struggled, and I think he benefited from being on that coaching tree. McDaniels did the same thing. First year, it was great. You put that
Wow.
70 burger up and a couple years ago. That was nice. But that offense has just gotten stale. And we
Yeah.
also got two as a quarterback too. So you don't know his availability. We're talking about Goddard, you don't know about his availability. So it's just running into a part where I think this is his last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to San Fran to join Sala to be the offense coordinator.
I don't know the 49ers coordinator is, but I think the 49ers are going to actually have a solid season because expectations are so low. So initially I was with you. I felt the Cowboys would have the better season, better record, and possibly go further in the playoffs. I actually think Dallas is going to have, I think 6-0. Starting the season 6-0 is on the board for them. If you want to bring up the Cowboys schedule, we can go through it. But I think 6-0 is on the board for them only because it takes defensive longer to catch up when the season starts. When the season starts, it's usually offenses that kind of hit the ground running and the defenses take a while. The Cowboys lost Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, forgetting somebody else. Help me out. Defensive, Demarcus Lawrence. So they've lost some voices in the locker room, some accomplished veterans, but that may help them because everybody in Dallas believes they're the man. It's like that great paid in full line. Everybody in Dallas wants to be the man just because. So now that is eliminated. They start off the season against the reigning Super Bowl champions in Philly, which for most people would say, oh, Philly's going to mollywop them. But Dakota's got a 9-4 record against the Eagles, and I believe he's 2-1 with Jalen Hurts when he goes on the field against Jalen Hurts. He kicks the Eagles' butt. He gives them that work. He gives them what they're asking for. Conversely, the Dolphins 4-2 could be on the board for them. They don't have a hard opening schedule that you can bring a look for. But the key with the Dolphins is home field or home court, home field. Can they implement that, or can they win enough games to keep that when it matters in those cold winter months? Because contrary to popular belief, you don't get to go from 70, not a cloud in the sky, humidity, to 20 degrees and not feel it. It's just the way that works. What say you?
I look at the when I look at the Cowboys schedule, I think they will play the Eagles. Everybody's talking about it's a blowout, and now it's even if it's like, oh, there's a banner right now. I think the Cowboys start 4-2. Just don't. I think their offense they need the Pickens. I'm kind of waiting for when it's going to improve. You kind of, I can see so many things going wrong, but I can also see Dak really starting to get his groove back
Exactly.
and really going well. So I think they're a playoff team. I think I mean, history says on their side, we look at the NFC East, history says that they probably are in good spots to win the division because they
Yeah.
haven't been a repeat person. So I
Yeah.
think they're a 2 and 5 seed. And even if they're a 5 seed, they're on the road, depending on the matchup, you're probably going against the Buccaneers because it's
Yeah.
the South. I think they win in that matchup right now. As of
Mm.
right now, if everybody's healthy, I think they're good enough to win that matchup. And then from there on out, who knows
Anything could
what goes
happen.
in there. But
Yeah, I agree with you.
is the key is for them to get up and put some pressure on the Eagles early, and the Commanders too. Can't forget them. Put some
Mm.
pressure on the Eagles and the Commanders early to make it a 3-team race and really start to drive it. If they start to fall back early on, we
It could
mentioned
be
with
different.
Pickens and everything else,
Yeah.
it'd be fun to
And
watch.
adding Pickens is a big deal. Conversely, the Dolphins added Zach Wilson, so you take that for what it's worth. Um, I agree with you though. I could see both teams making the playoffs, but I could see Dallas progressing. But I also don't believe that I don't believe in the Commanders record wise. I think they're going to take I still believe they make the playoffs, but I think they take some steps back, and Dallas could jump back in there. So we'll see. I really like the Dolphins. I really like your Dolphins analysis, just in the sense that they should have taken Shador, and they didn't. And they're going to feel the brunt of having an unavailable quarterback because he's got head trauma. Like head trauma and back trauma are tough to just overlook and get by. And he's not a big guy, he's not a mobile guy. So I definitely look forward to. Well, I definitely consider Dallas more formidable, even losing Lawrence than what the Dolphins bring to the table. Final word for you.
Yeah, and you look at that, and the fact that you would think, even if you're not going to draft Shador, you would get a better backup quarterback, or even trade one and invest in it, knowing that you have Tua as potentially losing out. And for sure, I know he does a good job. I think he does a good job talent wise in some aspects. I think that's a poor planning job for him. Knowing that your job's potentially on the line, you got to show. I know you got to show faith for your quarterback. Going, no, we believe in Tua. That you need a good backup plan to at least stay afloat in this conference. The AFC is even there. I can see the best the Dolphins can do. I think is probably six, and
Yeah.
not really inspiring a lot of confidence. So yeah, even if they do that, it'll be apparent that we'll see no more vape trails along that sideline because it's just bad when it comes. It's just
And
setting
that's
up for
that's
a lot of failure.
that's the key for the Dolphins. They have to have that home field. If they don't, then it's even if they make the playoffs, they out of there. Even if they make it, they're out of there in that first week. So that's. I do think there'll be a solid team though. One quick question for you before we wrap the show up. You made a comment that about Shador. You said they should have drafted Shador, but they didn't. But Mike McDaniels will be done. Do you think that's why they didn't spend this year on a quarterback because that McDaniels would be the one would be the one developing him?
Yeah, because I think a lot of teams didn't do that. Because I think that everybody's waiting for your lower Arch Sanders, and if we're bad enough, we can get that. But also, the overall quarterback class is going to be a lot deeper than what it was this year.
Yeah,
And a lot of times, especially if you have to fire anybody, you want to get a guy that fits your system. And Shador
yeah,
Sanders can do a lot of things. You just want to make sure it's a system that fits his strengths and his talents, or you get a coach that can do that as well too. So that's what I think that may have played a role in there. I don't know necessarily if that was the smartest role because I think
yeah,
if you get a good quarterback no matter what, you just get a good quarterback no matter what. And even if it went past the first two
yeah.
rounds, okay, you did. Third round, third, fourth round, just take a flyer on them. At least you have them on the roster. You can see that. And we've seen from those years past, even if you decide you want to draft a quarterback the following year, a third
Exactly,
round pick, you can flip for
exactly,
another third round or a conditional
exactly.
third and second. So
It
yeah.
was obvious. It was personal. It was obvious. It was more than football. And even going back to them, you know, Tua's always hurt. So you'd want a seasoned backup, seasoned young player, which Shador would have been. But I still think they'll be a solid. But I think the Cowboys every year there's a sleeper team, and I think one of these two will be the sleeper teams. It'll either be Dallas or Miami. But every year there's a sleeper team, and I believe it'll be one of these two. You know,
I
so
don't know. See, I look at their last four games. When you go to Steelers, Bengals, Buccaneers, even New England, I know you got that, but it's Vrabel. Yeah, do you? I don't see that. I don't have enough confidence. And if the Dolphins are like right here, well, if they're in the column for in the hunt or the last six or seven wild card, I just don't see them being able to pull that off, even going 2-2 in that stretch.
you're
It's
still
just
riding that. You're still riding that Cincinnati bus, huh? You're still riding that Cincinnati bus, man. They
that
got
off Dallas Square, everybody.
they got great. Well, they not really. They got great wide receivers, but they're not. They're not beat. They're not scoring. They're not scoring the ball at that clip. They're not scoring enough to warrant where they invested their money. But that's a story for another day.
See,
That's a
I just
story
look
for
at
another
them.
day.
It's that the secondary. It's that Dolphins
Yeah.
secondary gets yeah.
Them and the Arizona
It's,
Cardinals, you are locked in on those two. You
oh,
will
Cardinals, I'm
not
out.
deviate.
Cardinals, I'm out. Cardinals, I'm out. Nah, they let me go. They disappointed me way too many times. Way
We'll
too many
see.
times.
I believe it when I see it. That's funny. And that's it for this episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, whatever your podcast platform allows you to do. These are truly the dog days of summer, so I'm glad we're going through it together, brother. I appreciate you. He's Chris Franklin. I'm Kwame Fisher Jones. Until next time, we appreciate you here. Be easy.